If you'd told me 3 years ago that I'd be writing something like this, I'd have laughed in your face. I used to think I'd won the lottery with Claire. High school sweethearts, married at 24, settled in a cozy little house in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Life was simple, predictable. Or so I thought. Looking back, the first cracks were small, easy to ignore. Late nights at work she never used to have. New friends I'd never met. A phone she started guarding like it held state secrets. I'd ask how things were, and she'd wave me off, saying she was just stressed or tired. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. But then came the day she told me she was pregnant. And that's when everything unraveled. At first, I was thrilled. I'd always wanted to be a dad. But something felt off. The timing didn't add up. We'd been in a rough patch. Intimacy had been, well, rare. I brushed it off, told myself miracles happen. But deep down, a knot started forming in my gut, one that wouldn't go away. I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious husband snooping through his wife's phone. But one night, when she fell asleep on the couch, her phone lit up. And I saw a name I didn't recognize. A message popped up. Can't wait till he signs the papers. Then we'll be a real family. My stomach dropped. I didn't even open the message thread. I didn't need to. And that's where this story really begins. The next morning, I couldn't pretend anymore. I wasn't the kind of guy to bottle things up, but I also wasn't the kind to blow up in anger. I waited until she was sipping her coffee at the kitchen table, scrolling her phone like nothing was wrong. I told her I saw the message. I told her I knew. She didn't even deny it at first. Just froze for a second, her thumb hovering over the screen. Then she let out this tired sigh, like I was the burden here, like I was making her life difficult by finding out. She leaned back in her chair, folded her arms, and said something I'll never forget. Look, it's complicated. But you're a good man, and I know you'll do the right thing. I asked her flat out, who's the father? She looked me straight in the eye and said, does it matter? You've been here the whole time. You're the one who'll raise this baby. He won't. That was the moment I realized she wasn't sorry. Not even a little bit. In her mind, I wasn't a husband. I was a role. A safety net. Someone to shoulder responsibility while she played house with someone else. And then she hit me with it. She wanted me to adopt the baby. To put my name on the birth certificate. To raise him like he was mine. It's better for everyone, she said, like this was some business transaction. I didn't even answer her. I just stood up, went to the bedroom, packed a bag, and left. I drove around for 2 hours with nowhere to go, just watching my whole life unravel from the driver's seat. And that was just the beginning. The next day, I called a lawyer. I didn't even hesitate. I told him everything, how she cheated, how she wanted me to adopt another man's child, how she had no shame. He listened quietly, then told me what I already knew deep down. You need to file now, before she tries to twist this. And that's exactly what I did. I served her the papers 3 days later. Thought that would be the end of it, or at least the beginning of the end. But oh, no. Claire wasn't done. Not by a long shot. She showed up at my parents' house, crying crocodile tears, spinning some wild story about how I was abandoning her and the baby in their time of need. My mom, God bless her, but she's always been a sucker for a sad story, called me that same evening. She begged me to be the bigger man. Said the child deserved a father. Told me Claire made a mistake, but everyone deserves forgiveness. I told her flat out, the child already has a father. Just not me. But they didn't get it. Or didn't want to. My dad even said I should think of the family's reputation. Like it was 1950. By the end of the week, I realized they'd taken her side. Completely. They invited her over. Let her stay in the guest room. Kept calling her, our Claire, like nothing happened. It wasn't just betrayal from her anymore. It was betrayal from everyone. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I cut them all off. No calls. No texts. No visits. And for the first time in years, the silence felt like peace. I thought cutting them off would bring me closure. I really did. But I should have known Claire wouldn't make it that easy. She wasn't the type to walk away quietly. It started small texts from my mom, please talk to us, voicemails from my dad about doing the right thing. I ignored them. Then Claire upped the ante. She started showing up at my work. The first time, she waited outside my office building, arms crossed, belly prominently on display like a walking billboard of guilt. She tried to talk to me in front of my coworkers. I walked right past her. The second time, she left a letter with the receptionist. In it, she wrote that I was turning my back on an innocent child, that he'll grow up wondering why you left. I didn't respond. Then came the kicker. She filed for child support. That's right. Even though I wasn't the father. Even though we weren't even divorced yet. She tried to argue that because we were married at the time of conception, I was legally presumed the father under Iowa law. My lawyer warned me about this, but hearing it in black and white from the court paperwork felt like someone gut punched me. I spent that night sitting in my apartment staring at the ceiling. How did I get here? Married young. Thought I'd found my person. Thought we'd build a life. And now here I was, alone, betrayed, and being dragged into a mess I never signed up for. I remember thinking, what if she wins? What if the court really makes me responsible for this child? How do you explain to a kid that you're not their real dad, but you still have to pay for them? The next morning, I called my lawyer. We're fighting this, I told him. Whatever it takes. He sighed. It's going to be ugly. I know, I said. But I've already lost everything else. I'm not losing this, too. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about the marriage anymore. This wasn't about Claire. This was about standing up for myself. For the first time in years, I wasn't bending over backward to keep the peace. I was drawing a line, and she wasn't going to like it. It wasn't even a full week before Claire launched her next move. I'd underestimated just how far she'd go. I started getting texts from mutual friends, at first confused, then outright accusatory. Dude, how could you abandon her while she's pregnant? Wow, man, really? Not even a dime for the kid. Didn't think you had it in you to be such a cold bastard. Turns out Claire had been busy rewriting history. She told everyone I left her the moment she told me she was pregnant. That I refused to step up. That I called the baby someone else's problem. Never mind the fact that it was someone else's child. She left out that part, of course. My parents? Oh, they were eating it up. My mom called again. This time furious, saying she couldn't believe the things Claire told her. My dad said I better fix this before the whole family disowns you. Fix what? I wanted to scream. I didn't even bother trying to explain anymore. Nobody wanted the truth. They wanted the narrative that made them feel good. The one where Claire was a victim and I was the heartless husband. But the worst blow came when I got an email from my boss. Claire had emailed my workplace. She told them I was emotionally unstable because of our family situation, that I was lashing out, that she was worried for the baby's safety if I had unsupervised access. A formal HR meeting was scheduled. I stared at that email for a long time, hands trembling. She wasn't just trying to ruin my reputation with family. She was trying to wreck my career. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smirk. That smug little look she gave me when she handed me the baby adoption paperwork, like she already knew I'd fold. But here's the thing. I wasn't folding. The next morning, I went to HR with every document I had. The paternity test I'd ordered the moment she told me she was pregnant. I never even told her I did it. Came back 0% match. The texts, the legal filings. I laid it all on the table. My boss didn't say much at first. Just flipped through the paperwork, nodding slowly. Then he sighed. Looks like you're fighting a hell of a battle, he said quietly. Let us know if you need anything. That was it. The first person who actually believed me. And for the first time in months, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in this. I wish I could say that was the turning point. That after the HR meeting, things calmed down. But Claire wasn't done. See, when a person realizes they've lost control, they get desperate. And Claire? She still thought she could win. A week later, I got served with a petition for emergency custody. Yeah, she tried to claim I was an unstable influence and requested that I have zero contact with the child that wasn't even mine. My lawyer called me that morning, his voice tight. She's doubling down, he said. She wants to get ahead of the paternity issue by painting you as dangerous. If she wins temporary custody orders before the DNA results are formally entered into the record, it complicates everything. I remember just sitting there in my apartment, holding that stack of legal papers in my hands, thinking, how did it come to this? I hadn't hurt anyone. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't threatened. All I'd done was leave. But in her mind, that wasn't allowed. Walking away meant rejecting her control. And control was the only thing Claire ever really wanted. The next few days were a blur of depositions, affidavits, and emergency hearings. My lawyer was a shark, thank God. He hammered them on the paternity, presented the test I'd done, demanded the court order an official one. The judge looked tired. Let's confirm paternity before we make any custody rulings, she said. Claire's lawyer tried to object. We're not disputing paternity. But the judge cut him off. Then this won't be an issue. For the first time, I saw Claire's mask crack. That perfect composed expression slipped, just for a moment, and I saw panic underneath. Because deep down, she knew. She knew once that test was official, the whole house of cards would collapse. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, the court-ordered test came back. 0% probability. The judge dismissed her petition. I walked out of that courtroom feeling, not victorious, exactly, just free. But the freedom came at a cost. My parents didn't speak to me. Half my extended family cut me off. Mutual friends? Most had quietly taken her side. It was a lonely victory, but it was mine. And sometimes, that's enough. The weeks after the court ruling felt quiet. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet. Like standing in the middle of a house after a storm. Everything broken, but the wind finally gone. I thought maybe, after the dust settled, I'd feel relief. Vindication. Something. But instead, I felt like I'd been hollowed out. Every morning I woke up expecting a fight. But there was nothing. Claire didn't try again. No more lawsuits. No more showing up at work. She went radio silent. But my parents? They never called. Never texted. Not even a word. I heard from a cousin that they'd hosted Claire for Thanksgiving that year, setting a plate for their grandchild. A child that wasn't even related to them. It wasn't about love. It was about the image. They'd rather play pretend with Claire's mess than face the truth. At first, that stung. I'd spent my whole life trying to be the good son, the steady one, the responsible one. And when the test results came back, when I proved the truth, I thought, surely now they'll see. But they didn't. They didn't want truth. They wanted easy. And I wasn't easy. So I stopped waiting for the phone to ring. Instead, I started building something new. I joined a local gym, took a woodworking class I'd always wanted to try, volunteered at a dog shelter on Saturdays. Nothing huge, nothing dramatic, just little things that reminded me who I was outside of being a husband, a son, a name on a birth certificate I never signed. Funny thing is, I made new friends. Good people. People who didn't know the drama, didn't care about the gossip. And slowly, so slowly, I didn't even notice at first, the heaviness started to lift. Not gone, but lighter. One night, months later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Claire. Just 5 words. Do you ever miss us? I stared at it a long time. I thought about everything. The lies, the manipulation, the betrayal. I thought about that baby, growing up with a mother who lied about his father, a family who clung to a fantasy. Then I typed back, no, and blocked the number. I set the phone down, sat back on the couch, and for the first time in a long time, I felt okay. Not perfect. Not healed, but okay. And maybe that's enough. A few weeks after I blocked Claire's number, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name, scribbled in a rushed, jagged hand I'd know anywhere. Inside was a letter. 3 pages. Her handwriting wild, uneven, like she'd spilled everything onto the page without stopping to breathe. It opened with "I'm sorry." But it wasn't an apology. It wasn't remorse. It was an attempt to pull me back in. By the second paragraph, the script was familiar. You gave up on us. You abandoned me when I needed you most. The baby deserves a father. She wrote that my parents missed me, that they were brokenhearted, that they still hoped I'd do the right thing. Every sentence was a tug at the old guilt she knew so well, the guilt she'd wrapped me in for years. But it was the last paragraph that made me sit back, my chest tightening. I know you think you're free, but you're not. You never will be. We're connected forever. You'll never be rid of me. I read that line 3 times. You'll never be rid of me. And for a flicker, a fleeting second, I felt it again. The weight, pressing on my chest. That old, suffocating heaviness. The feeling of drowning in her chaos, no matter how far I ran. Because that's what manipulators do. They don't just try to control your present. They try to live in your future, too. But then I looked around my apartment. At the peace. The quiet. The clean lines of a space that was finally mine. And I realized, she's wrong. There's no baby with my name. No legal tie. No blood tie. No court order binding me to her life. The only chain left was the one she wanted me to wear. And I wasn't putting it back on. I folded the letter, slid it back into the envelope, walked outside to the fire pit behind the building, lit a match, watched the paper curl and blacken and disappear into ash. After I burned the letter, life settled into something I hadn't felt in years. Silence. Not the awkward, tense kind. Not the silence that comes from waiting for the next fight, but a stillness. A quiet that wasn't empty, but calm. I stopped checking my phone, waiting for messages that never came. I stopped expecting my parents to call. They didn't. I think, deep down, they made peace with their version of the story. Maybe it was easier to believe Claire's lie than admit they'd chosen the wrong side. Funny thing is, I wasn't even angry anymore. Just done. I ran into an old friend from high school at the grocery store one afternoon. He looked surprised to see me. Said he'd heard some stuff. I didn't bother correcting the rumors. I just smiled, told him I was doing all right. Because I was. Not perfect. Not healed. But all right. There's a strange kind of freedom in having nothing left to prove. When everyone's counted you out, dismissed you, written their own ending for you, you get to write your own. Claire tried to break me in every way she could think of. She used love. She used guilt. She used family. She used the law. And when all of that failed, she used pity. But here's the thing nobody tells you. People like her don't stop because they love you. They stop because you stop giving them control. And I stopped. I moved apartments a few months later. Got a place a little smaller, but sunnier. With a balcony where I could drink coffee in the mornings and listen to the birds instead of old arguments replaying in my head. I replaced all the furniture. Left behind anything we'd shared. Bought mismatched chairs from yard sales, a table someone left on the curb. Nothing fancy. Nothing Instagram-worthy. But everything mine. And one night, sitting out on that balcony, a breeze lifting through the city air, I realized. I wasn't waiting for the past to make sense anymore. I wasn't waiting for an apology that wouldn't come. I wasn't waiting to be proven right. Because I already was. The truth had always been enough. And now, finally, I was enough too. About a year after the divorce was finalized, after all the dust had finally settled, I got a phone call. A number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't pick up. But something told me to answer. It wasn't Claire. It wasn't my parents. It was a woman's voice, soft but steady. I hope this isn't a bad time, she said. My name's Leah. I don't know if you remember me. It took me a second. Then I did. Leah, the sister of the guy Claire had cheated with. I hadn't thought about that man in a long time. Hadn't wanted to. But hearing Leah's name brought it all rushing back. She explained why she called. I wanted to tell you something. I know you probably don't care anymore, and maybe it doesn't matter now, but my brother left Claire. Months ago. I sat in silence. She's not doing well, Leah added quietly. She's been reaching out to everyone, telling people you ruined her life. I let out a slow breath. Sounds about right, I said. Leah hesitated. I know you don't owe me anything, but I wanted you to hear it from someone who sees her for what she really is. I'm sorry for what she put you through. I thanked her, hung up, and felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just closure. That's the thing nobody tells you. Sometimes the victory doesn't feel like a win. It just feels like the end of a long, bitter chapter. I went back to drinking my coffee, watching the light creep across my small apartment. Later that day, I got another call. This time, my mom. First time in over a year. I heard from Claire, she started, her voice cautious. She said you knew about everything. I did, I said calmly. A long time ago. There was a long silence on the other end. We should have listened, she whispered. Another silence. And for the first time, I didn't feel the need to fill it. I hope you're okay, she finally said. I am, I told her. And I meant it. Because for once, I wasn't the one trying to fix everything. I wasn't the one holding the family together. I was just living. And for the first time, that was enough. A month after that phone call with my mom, I heard a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I almost didn't open it. But something told me I needed to face it. When I pulled the door open, Claire was standing there. She looked different. Smaller, somehow. Her hair pulled back in a messy knot, dark circles under her eyes. She was holding the baby, a boy now almost a year old. I hadn't seen her since the courtroom. For a few seconds, we just stared at each other. Then she spoke, her voice hoarse. Can I come in? I didn't move. Why are you here? She sighed. I have nowhere else to go. I stayed quiet. I don't want anything from you, she added quickly. I'm not here for money. I'm not here to ask for help. I didn't know where else to turn. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I believed her. But belief didn't mean obligation. I can't fix this for you, I said quietly. Her eyes welled up. I know. She looked down at the child, who stared at me with big, questioning eyes that didn't look like mine, and never would. I just wanted him to know who you were, Claire said, her voice trembling. Even if you're not his father. You were supposed to be. That hit harder than I expected. I stepped back. I'm sorry for him, I said. But not for me. She nodded, biting her lip, tears spilling over. I'll go. She turned to leave. But just before she stepped off the porch, she looked back. Do you ever think about what could have been? I didn't hesitate. Every day. And I meant it. But not the way she thought. I closed the door gently as she walked away, her figure shrinking down the street. And standing in that quiet apartment, I realized something. Regret doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It just means you're human enough to wonder. But wondering doesn't change a damn thing. I sat back on my couch, letting the silence wrap around me. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of it. It's been 2 years since that night Claire showed up at my door. She never came back. Never called again. I don't know where she is now. Sometimes I wonder. But not with anger. Not with bitterness. Just curiosity, the kind you feel about an old photograph you stumble across in a forgotten box. My parents never really apologized. They never said the words I used to ache for. But slowly, quietly, they started reaching out. An occasional text. A holiday card. An invitation to dinner. I've accepted some. Declined others. Because I'm not angry anymore. But I'm not the same man who used to bend over backwards for them either. There's a freedom in setting boundaries you once thought impossible. I rebuilt my life, piece by piece. Not with big gestures or dramatic changes, but in small, steady ways. I kept volunteering at the shelter. I finished that woodworking class. I made a bookshelf from scratch, wobbly, imperfect, but mine. And on its top shelf, I placed a small wooden box. Inside it, every court paper, every letter, every legal document tied to that chapter of my life. I don't open it anymore, but I keep it. Not as a wound, not as a weight, as proof. Proof that I survived. Proof that the worst thing that ever happened to me didn't define me. A reminder that love can break you, but it doesn't have to bury you. Last week, I sat on my balcony, sipping coffee, watching the sun rise over the city. My phone buzzed. A friend asking if I wanted to join a hiking group. I said yes, because that's the quiet victory. Not the courtroom win. Not the dramatic showdown. It's saying yes to new things. It's choosing yourself every day. It's finally realizing the past doesn't get to hold the pen anymore. I do. And I'm still writing.